Hi, welcome back to Christine's Home Affairs. I have a cute little project for you today. This one's going to be a shell-shaped or a curve-shaped pouch or a bag with a wristlet strap as well. So we've got a curved edge zip, fully lined, and we have a couple of pockets on the inside as well. This will sit up. So I'm going to show you how to make this in two different sizes, and we're going to be using a regular dress zip as well as the number 5 continuous zip, and I'm going to use two different stabilizers so you can see what the outcome is for different stabilizers, different zips and different sizes. You can make this in any size you like. The technique will be exactly the same. Come and join me whilst we make this curved or shell-shaped pouch. Okay, to make the two of these bags, this is what we're going to be using today. I'm going to do one of them with a regular zip and the other one with a continuous zip. I'm also going to put a wristlet strap on both of them, so we'll need some little swivel clips and D-rings. The width of the fabric that you use for your wristlet straps will be determined by the size of your D-rings and clips that you have. So I'm only using a small one. I'll give you the measurements for the size that I'm using. On this bag here, I'm using a really lightweight fusible stabilizer, very much like Palin. The product I'm using is called Parlan. It is on my website if you want that in Australia, as is this really stiff stabilizer that I'm going to use for the larger bag. So this is pretty much the same as Peltex, which is a very stiff stabilizer, which I believe you can get in fusible and non-fusible. And I think I'll have to quilt the fabric for this particular one. So we've got our fabric pieces, I've got my stabilizers cut to the size that I need, and I've got my zips and other hardware. We're also going to need some lining, and I'll be putting pockets on the inside of these pouches, but I'm not sure if I'll use the lining or the outer fabric, but we'll need some fabric for the pockets. And stabilizing your pockets is optional, but I'm going to be using this cotton interfacing. I think it's about a medium weight cotton interfacing. It's up to you whether you want to stabilize that or not though. And I'll provide the measurements for both of the bags that we're making today, so you'll be able to see those on the screen now. I think I'll start off with the larger one. I'll set everything aside except for my stabilizer. So this one here is cut at 10 by 20 inches or 25 by 50 centimeters. All we need to do for this is fold it in half, find the center, and just make a mark in the center of our stabilizer here. The stabilizer that we're using, regardless of the type that you use, the edge of it is going to be our stitching line. So our fabric will be extending beyond the stabilizer, and our stitching line will be right beside the edge of that piece of Peltex or Palin. From our center line here, I'm going to measure up 4 centimeters or 1.5 inches. From the center line, I'm going to do the same. And we'll do the same on the other side of the center. This will be the base of our bag, and this area will be the curve of our bag. So we've got 4 by 8 centimeters or 1.5 by 3 inches across here. Fold the fabric in half again, and I'm going to fold it at that marking that I've got up here. Bring the edges together. Make sure you've got a really nice square piece of stabilizer here. And we can just clip this together just to hold it in place for the time being. Along the top and the side, we want to mark a curve. This curve can be any size you like. There's many ways of doing that. This being a 10-inch by 10-inch square, we can place a ruler at the bottom corner and mark 10 inches from that corner all the way out to the top on both sides, and you'll get a really nice even curve. That's a lot of marking. What I'm going to do is just grab a piece of cotton tape and a pin, and I'm going to place the pin through the end of the tape and pop that right into the bottom corner of my fabric. I've got my pressing mat sitting underneath, so my pin now is sitting in there and holding this piece of stabilizer in place. So what I can do now is just eyeball a measurement. You don't have to cut this piece of string to size, and we can use a pen and guide this around just like you would with a compass. I've very crudely wrapped the tape around the pen. All I need to do is keep this secure. Try and keep your pen or marker nice and still as you go around and mark your curve. And if you're happy with that, we can cut that out. If you feel as though you want to waste less material, you can extend your curve so that it comes out more like that. I'm happy with this as it is though. Now that we've drawn this line, we can cut that out and we can cut out this box corner. This will be the finished size of our little pouch. There's our pattern now for our pouch. This is for the larger one. Let's work on the smaller one now. And this is 8 inches by 16 inches or 20 by 40 centimetres. So we're going to make the box corner a little bit smaller. And I think I might make this one 1 1/4 inches or 3 centimetres. I'll grab my pressing mat again so that I've got somewhere to put my pin, and I'm just going to pop my pin through my measuring gauge like this and come up to the top where I'd like this to finish. And on this ruler here, I've got a little hole inside there that I can put a pen or a marker of some kind. And if you don't have any measuring gauge like that, you can just use your tape measure. So measure out, in this case, 8 inches, and then I make a few marks at 8 inches from the bottom corner all the way around, and then I would just join up my dots as I go. I can cut this one out as well now. And there we have both of our templates. For the fusible product, I'm going to place that directly over the top of my fabric. And I want my fabric to be at least 1 centimetre or 3/8 of an inch larger than the stabiliser. And I can fuse that together. And then what's left at the bottom here, that's what I'm going to be using for my wristlet strap. This one here, because it's not a fusible product, I'm going to allow a little bit of extra room all the way around, making sure that I've got enough to cut out my wristlet strap. Now this is non-fusible. If you've got a basting spray, you can spray this to your fabric, but I find basting spray makes a lot of mess and I can't be bothered dealing with that. I also don't want it to gum up my machine. The other thing you can do is use some curved safety pins, but what I'm going to do today is use my trusty old double-sided tape. If I just run a few strips of that across my stabiliser, then that should be enough to keep that secured to my fabric. And I can go and quilt it. This double-sided tape doesn't gum up your needles. The other thing that you can also do if you don't have double-sided tape but you have a glue stick, and this is a Soline glue pen, you can run that around the edge of your stabiliser and just secure your fabric along the sides and the centre wherever it's needed. You don't need too much. It's really just to secure the fabric in place whilst you go and quilt it. This one I'm going to go and take to my heat press, fuse that together, and I'll take this to the machine and quickly go and quilt some lines onto this. Alright, my stabiliser's been secured to both fabric pieces. This one here is the one with the fusible fleece, and this is the larger one that I've gone and quilted. I've just quilted lines with a long stitch length that are 1 inch apart. Take your lining fabric and place that right side together with your outer fabric. Flip that over, and we're going to now cut our lining and our outer fabric so that we have matching pieces. I need to mark a 1 centimetre or 3/8 inch seam allowance. I'm going to take the measurement from the very edge of our stabilizer here. So I'm going to mark that line all the way around the curve. On the straight edges here, you can just mark the 3/8 of an inch or 1 centimetre. And you can just mark a line here and then scissor cut it, or you can use your rotary cutter, and that's what I'll do here. And although you can't see the lines around here, I have marked a 1 centimetre curve. I'm going to cut that out now. Again, you can scissor cut or use your rotary cutter. I find using a really small diameter blade rather than my big one is much nicer on the curves. Okay, here's what we have. I've got the lining and the outer fabric cut out for the small one. Likewise for the larger bag. I've also cut out the fabric for my pocket pieces for the large and small pouch. I've cut up my strips for the wristlet strap, which will also be used for the tabs. And then I've kept a couple of pieces of scrap fabric, which I'm going to use for the zipper tabs. For the wristlet strap, what we're going to do is fold the raw edges into the centre, fold that in half again, press that in place, but we're not going to sew it just yet. For the pocket pieces, we've got the full length of fabric here, fold that in half, mark the centre and place your fusible interfacing, if you're using it, in the centre of the fabric there. I'll take all of these to the press. I'll set the creases for the wristlet straps and fuse those pieces to the pockets. Okay, with our pocket pieces, open out the fabric and bring right sides together. We're going to sew down these 3 edges here and leave an opening on one edge so that we can turn this the right way around. So we'll do that for all 4 pocket pieces. I've pressed the fabric for my wristlet strap and also the tab to join the strap too. And now I'll just cut off about 2.5 inches. This will be for our D-ring and the longer pieces will be for our swivel clips. We've got these little swivel clips to put on. So let's take our wristlet fabric, put the fabric in through the bottom, fold the fabric in half because you want to keep that nice and flat. Bring those edges together at the end and then open those layers out. And we can sew straight across there. I'll do the same for the other one. Open out the fabric, bring the edges together, and you'll open out those folds and sew that one as well. We're going to do all of this over at the machine. So we're going to sew straight across there. Once we've done that, we'll open out the fabric and finger press those seams open. Then bring the folds back in together again. With your clip in place, you'll stitch around the long edge of both sides. And you'll do that all in one go. Do that for this one. For these, we'll just sew down both long edges. Once we've done that, we can put our D-ring on there and we can stitch close to the edge of our D-ring. So we'll do that and we'll go and sew up these pocket pieces. We will also take our zip, and the technique for our zip will be the same whether you're using continuous or a regular zip. I'm going to cut off this little metal tab down here. I'll grab a piece of fabric that is about 4 inches long, and you want it as wide as what the zip is. Fold the fabric in half with the right sides together, place the zip over the fabric like that, fold it across, and we'll sew that tab in place as well. Let's go and do all of that now. I'll do the tab for the zip first. Then I'll grab my wristlet straps. Once I've sewn the end closed, I'll just spread the fabric apart, open up the seams here, and then fold that fabric back over. and over again. And we can sew that closed. Now you have a ring of fabric with your swivel clip on there. You'll just go all the way around until you get to the beginning, and then we can do the other side. When you get back to the beginning, I like to go to where the seams meet, and rather than ending my work, I'll just sew across and then go back down the other side. So the clip is secured to the wristlet strap. Let's find the fold where we've joined the fabric. We'll bring that fold around to one side. So I've got that overlapped probably by about maybe ½ inch or so. That seam is where we've joined the fabric. I've got the swivel on this side. I'm just going to sew straight over that. And our clip is in place. For the little tab, I'll just sew down both sides. With each of these, I'll grab the D-ring and place that over the fabric. I'll just stitch across there. Those are ready. I've got one more wristlet strap here to do. And I can close that one up as well. And now I can do the pocket. Now I'm just sewing right beside the edge of the stabilizer here. I use this method to prevent a lot of bulky seams on the edge here. I'm going to leave an opening here, so I'll backstitch, come forward, backstitch here, and keep going to the end. And I'll repeat that for the others. Okay, all of our bits are done here. With our zip and the tab on the end of it, all you need to do is push that fabric away from the zip, press that in place. You've got a really nice finished end of the zip and a good size tab. The rest of it you can cut to size. We'll set that aside for the moment. Our wristlet straps are both done, as are the tabs with the D-rings. We'll set those aside. We've got our pocket pieces done, and we can trim the corners of those. And then you can find your opening and turn it the right way around. And then just poke out the corners on your pockets. Fold the edges under for the opening. We'll close that up when we secure that to our pouches. Now I'm going to take these 4 pocket pieces back to the machine, and I'm just going to go and top stitch along the top edge of all 4 of those. Let's take this smaller pouch to begin with, and we'll grab our lining fabric, and we can fold this in half with the right sides facing out. Mark a crease just in the centre there. Open the fabric out again. I've marked the centre along here. And we've got our 2 pocket pieces. Remember, this is the small one. So I'm going to place my pocket piece about 1.5 inches from the centre, which is around about 4 centimetres. And roughly the same from the bottom. Line that up along there, and then just double check that the fabric isn't going to be too close to my stitching line, and there's plenty of room along there. So for both pieces on the smaller pouch, I'm positioning my pockets 1.5 inches or 4 centimeters from the bottom edge and from the center. And I can take this to the machine, sew down along the bottom, which will close up that opening, and up the side again. We'll do that for both of those. And for the bigger one, we'll fold that in half as well. So from the center, that's 2 inches or 5 centimeters. From the bottom, it will be about 7 centimeters or 2.5 inches. And I can place those pocket pieces on there as well. Let's sew those pockets in place now. All right, our pockets are done, and we can set the larger one aside. We'll work on the zip for the smaller one first. So we'll grab our outer fabric and your lining fabric and the zip. And I think before I do anything now, I'm going to quickly go and put a label onto the front of each of my bags. Let's find the center of our fabric. I'm going to grab the tab that's got the D-ring on it and place that directly over the top of the center. I'll go and sew that in place. I'll do that one as well whilst I'm at it. All right, we've got our outer lining and our zip. We've got the tab in place at the top here. We're now going to put the zip into our pouch. Grab your outer fabric, and from the cutout that we've got on the box corner here, we're going to make a mark at the top of our fabric that is in line with this opening at the bottom, and we'll do the same on this side as well, and we'll repeat that for the lining. This is going to be the ending position of our zipper. With the tab finished at one end, we can line that up at the very bottom edge of our fabric. So we'll start here, and we're going to line up our zipper tape all the way around until we get to that mark that we've made that's in line with the bottom of the box corner. Because we're going around a curve, you are going to need to clip the edges open on your zip as you get to it. So I've run a bit of double-sided tape just along the edge there, and I've stopped at that point where I'm going to end my zip. Now this zip is too long, but that's fine. We can trim that off later. After using that 4-inch piece of fabric, my tab is quite long at the bottom, but because we've got the box corner, it's actually going to be really useful for us. So I'll line up the end of the tab along the bottom of my pouch, and I'll start positioning that. I'm going to need to clip the edges of my zip as well, just to help it go around the curve. Because I want to line up the edge of my zipper tape with the edge of my fabric. And I've also got the zip faced down. So I'm coming up to the mark I've made here. I'll stop there, and I'll just mark that on the edge of my zip. Let's open this out. So where my line is here, I'm going to stop sewing right there, and then I'm going to fold the edge of the zip back, and then I'm going to stitch over that section a couple of times. Rather than putting the lining on at the same time like I usually do, I'm going to sew this in place now. I've got my zipper foot on, and I'm going to sew really close to the edge of the zip here. I'll just move this clip out of the way for the moment. I'm going to sew up to that mark I've made. I'll backstitch, and then I'll flip the zip over
and sew across it. I'll trim that off later. Next I'll take the lining and I'm going to place that right side together. Make sure I line up the bottom edge, and then I'm going to line up the curved edge along here. And you can clip this in place until you get to the top, but I don't want my fabric shifting as I'm sewing, so I'm going to use my double-sided tape again, and with the tape in place, the bottom of my fabric lined up, I can line up the lining and the outer fabric. Try not to pull your fabric because you'll stretch it out of shape. Gently squeeze the pieces together, and I'll line up this mark that I've got here with the mark I've got on my fabric, and I can sew that in place as well now. So with the layers all lined up there, I'm going to have my outer fabric faced up. I can see the row of stitching that I've already done. I can follow that same row of stitching. And as you get to your zipper pull, just move that out of the way. Okay, so we've got one side of the zip in place now. Before we turn it the right way around and top stitch, we do want to just clip our curves. Okay, we now need to put some double-sided tape around this side, and you want to keep your lining out of the way here. We'll open this zip out all the way, and then we'll take the tab at the bottom here, line that up with the bottom edge of the fabric, just as we did on the other side, and then line up the edge of the zipper tape until we get to that mark we've made at the top. And as you're going, you clip the edges of your zipper tape. So I've got the tape secured in place here. I do want to move my slider out of the way. So I'm going to sew from here all the way around to where I've made that mark. And I'll do the same as I did on the other side. I'll stitch up to that line, back stitch, and then I will flip the zipper tape out. Let's go do that. So I've moved my zip head out of the way to complete the rest of it. Spread the side of the fabric open and make sure you don't go anywhere near your D-ring, and your lining needs to be well away from your sewing area as well. This is where my marking is. I'll back stitch. Move the teeth out to the side. Carefully stitch over that. And with that side stitched in place, I'm going to run some more double-sided tape along here. It's so much quicker and easier to use this than it is to put clips in place. And now we can put the lining on the other side. Bring this edge across, line up the bottom and the sides again, and secure those layers together. And again, just be careful not to stretch your fabric. And once again, we'll go back to the machine and we'll sew around here. I'll be sewing from the top edge and just following the line of stitching that I've already done. I'm not starting at the fold here. I'm just going to start where the zipper tape has been folded. Don't forget to move your zipper pull out of the way as you get to it. With that sewn together now, the only part we haven't done is that little section at the top where the tab is in the middle, and we can just even out these layers here and go and sew that closed. And you're just going to join up with the other side of the zip that we did earlier. We're going to clip the curve. We can cut off the end of the zip now. And turn this the right way out. Separate the lining from your outer fabric because we're going to get ready to top stitch now. But let's have a look how this is turning out so far. There's our zip with our little tab at the top. Our wristlet will be attached to that. We've got a nice curved zip and we still have to box our corners, but we're now going to top stitch both sides of the zip. Open that out, and what we're going to do is start from the edge of our zipper tab here. We're going to top stitch along here, all the way across, past the center tab, come back down to the other side, and we'll finish at the end of the tab here. Let's go do that. So it'll be easier if you turn this inside out. Place the outer fabric faced up, pop this fabric behind my foot, spread the fabric apart, and I'm going to start sewing just past where my zip and tab meet. I'll continue on past the centre point all the way to the other side. Okay, with the top stitching done, let's separate the lining and the outer fabric. And at this point we want to make sure that the zip is open, and we can easily leave it open all the way. Where our box corners are, we'll line up the edge of the fabric at both ends, line up the centre. I usually like to push my tab toward the lining fabric, so the fold of that zipper tab is facing my lining. It doesn't really matter which way it goes. It's really just what you're used to. And then even that fabric out, and we'll do the same on the lining. And with the lining we need to leave a small opening for turning this the right way around. I'm leaving an opening of about 4 fingers width just in there. We're going to sew with a back stitch here up to here and back stitch here, come across where the zipper tab is. I usually triple stitch over that, and then keep on going until you get to the end, and we'll back stitch there as well. I'm still using my 1 centimetre or 3/8 inch seam allowance. Back stitch, come forward a bit, start again. Now whilst we're still over at the machine, we might as well take these box corners, and what you want to do is just pinch the fabric apart, and this corner here we want to line up, and the corner on this side, and we can sew right across from here to here. And for the other corner we'll do the same. Pinch that fold out, line up those edges, and sew that closed as well. And this is pretty much finished now. All we have to do is turn it the right way out, neaten everything up, and then close up that opening. Once you've turned everything the right way and closed up that opening, which I haven't done yet, close up your zip, and this is what your pouch is going to look like. Grab your little wristlet strap, attach that to the top, and there's your shell-shaped pouch. This one's done with the soft fleecy. Let's finish the one with the stiff Peltex. Where I've used a number 3 zip or a regular dress zip on here, this other bag I'm going to be using a number 5 or a continuous zip. When you're putting the tab on the end, it needs to go to the end that has the flat side of the zipper head. You've got a curved side and the flat. So the flat and the tab need to be together, and the curved edge needs to be facing the outside edge of the zip. I've run some double-sided tape right along the entire outside. I've snipped it in half at the centre, and I'll just peel that tape off. I'll clip the edges of my zip first. With the bumpy side face down, we'll start at the edge of the fabric again. And I've made a chalk mark just on the end of the zip here where I'm going to stop sewing. So that's in line with that mark I've made underneath. So I'll come around and sew up to here, and as long as my zipper head is over this side somewhere, I can separate these teeth and open it out and then flip it across and sew over it, just as we did with the green one. Move the slider out of the way as I get to it. I'd prefer to take it to the bottom of the bag than the top, just in case it actually accidentally comes off the tape. The rest of this is going to be exactly the same as what we did in the first one. I'm now going to place this piece of lining directly over the top. With my zip, you can see there's an opening here, it's closed along there. That really doesn't matter. It's now, apart from this not having an end stop, it's exactly the same as a regular zip. I'll go and finish this in the same way. I'll go and do the side seams and the box corners and everything. I'll come back when it's time to close this up. To close up the pouch, just grab the edges at the bottom here. Go and top stitch that really close to the edge. I'll go and do that now. Okay, that's completely finished. Here we have our bag open with our pockets on either side, wristlet strap at the top there, and the curved zip. And here's the other one. This is the one that's using the stiff Peltex stabilizer, whereas this has got the soft stabilizer. Now when you make this, it'll kind of sit down a little bit. What you want to do is just go along the seam here, press those edges together, kind of making a heel, and then you can sit the bag up. I didn't quite match up my zip at the top. I can kind of live with that. Can't be perfect all the time, can we? And the little wristlet strap on the side. Even though you've got different stabilizers in there, these are both going to stand up just as well as one another. At least I've matched up the zip properly on that one. And we've got our little pockets on the inside here as well. Something a little bit different and very cute.
There we go. Aren't they little cuties? I really love the vibrant colours in these. I think they're absolutely gorgeous. But then I love vibrant colours. This is the stiff one with the Peltex-like stabiliser. Nice and stiff and firm and sits up really well. The other one is a lot softer. You can scrunch it up, but it will also sit up as well. So you've got the little heel at the back there. It tapers in to the top, tapers out as well. And you've got that shell shape or the curved shape with that nice curved zip. I'm pleased I managed to line up the zip on one of them. I think I'll go and fix the other one. And there you go. A fun, cute little pouch to make. And it's really not that difficult to make at all. You just got to go slow if you don't have the confidence. Am I going to sew these to sell? No. The main reason why I'm not going to put these in the shop to sell is because I don't like wastage. So if I can work with straight edges, there's a lot less wastage and I don't have to worry about hanging on to little bits like this. I'll cut these off and I'll use the small bits of stabiliser for something. But for me, it's too much good fabric going to waste to put these in the shop to sell. But I will be doing something with these. I'm just about coming up to 90,000 subscribers, so yay to all of you for subscribing. That means my 100,000 subscriber base is getting closer. It'll still probably be the end of the year, but I've decided that I'm going to make a few things and use those as giveaways when we reach 100,000 subscribers. So I'll definitely keep that one for a subscriber gift. And this one here, if I fix the zip at the top, then this one will be a gift as well. There's a couple of other things that I'm making that are going to go in my 100,000 subscriber giveaway. So hopefully that won't be too far away. I hope you've all enjoyed this video, something a little bit different with the curved edges. And I shall catch you next time. Bye for now.